How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another quick market update for you guys. A quick rundown of what you can expect to see today. We're going to be touching up on Bitcoin in terms of technical analysis. We're then going to be looking at ETH in terms of technical analysis, followed by any news today that is notable to talk about and explain the significance of. Then we will be getting into a coin suggestion from you guys. So like I said in last video, every single day, we will be checking out a coin that you guys suggest. So today's is Keeta. We are going to be checking that out today. I have a couple things pulled up for it. We're going to be checking it out, giving you guys my viewpoint on it, if it's something that I would be interested in, and just overall my thoughts and opinions on whatever coin it is you guys are interested in. So we'll do one a day. Again, Keeta is a coin that I decided to pick for today. And that's pretty much going to be it for today. Now, tomorrow, what I think we'll do is we'll run through Bitcoin, ETH. Those we'll do each and every day. We'll go through news as well. Then we will talk about, it could be my top 5 coins for if we are to see an alt season come in. Those, that's a video idea we could do. Or we could do something else regarding trading. We'll figure something out instead of it simply being Bitcoin, ETH, news, plus a coin you guys suggest. We'll throw even something else in there. So we're going to keep it pretty busy. This is going to be a video where maybe you're interested in just seeing ETH price action today. Then you can skip to that. Maybe you're interested in seeing my analysis on Keeta, a very quick one. But maybe that's what you're interested in. You can skip to that in the timestamps below. So I'm trying to make this interactive for you guys. If you want that market update, I'm going to give you it with the top performers. And again, we're just going to go over some pieces of news. Obviously, this is the early stages of everything, so this isn't going to be perfect. Eventually, we're going to have a camera set up. The editing is going to be a lot nicer, but I want to just get back into that habit and really provide you guys with authentic value. With all that being said, let's take a look at Bitcoin on the day. So I remember yesterday, we talked about Bitcoin being, of course, in bearish structure where we are creating lower highs and lower lows. If you don't know what that means, then you can go check that out. And I will potentially make a free resource for you guys in simply telling you the basics of technical analysis from what I've learned. I might make a free resource for you guys. So if that's something you might be interested in, let me know in the comments below. But here you can see a lower high, lower low structure forming. The reason I say that is because we had our previous high being our previous all-time high that we just hit, followed by a low that was lower than this previous low, followed by a lower high, and now potentially a lower low than this one, indicating that we are still in bearish structure, which can easily change. We've seen it change pretty periodically. So realistically, nothing to be afraid of. We just have to see rejections. As you can see, it looks like we rejected off of this previous resistance here. If you see, we right here was a previous resistance point. We came down, boom, rejected off of it. So it is respecting, and to me that 110K per Bitcoin seems to be respected, as we saw a nice rejection. Of course, what we want to see, if we want Bitcoin to continue up from here in the very, very short term, we'd want to see a close almost above here, because this would indicate that we just created a high above this high, indicating that we flipped from bearish to bullish structure. So that's something I'd like to see play out. Remember, we still have this demand zone here. Watch yesterday's video if you want to understand what those are per my definition. So my scenarios that I see, we kind of range in this area a little bit before potentially pushing back up if we get more buying volume to potentially go and create a new all-time high. $125,000 per token would be a pretty cool milestone to see us reach. So we're just gonna have to watch how this all plays out. We are still respecting that 200-day EMA. As you can see, we potentially will close above the 100-day EMA. And if you don't know what that is, that's an exponential moving average. So usually, just for, I guess, a quick comparison, if we go look in that 2021 cycle, which of course we knew to be a pretty nice cycle. We saw us top out and we were way above the 200-day EMA. But when the bear market started, which essentially was around here, this shift, we closed below the 50-day, then we closed below the 100-day, and then the big one was the 200-day EMA, which we closed below. We kind of fought to stay above it, came back down, and we were pretty far below the 200-day EMA before coming back up in 2023 of January. We came back up above the 200-day EMA, came down, rejected off of it again, and ever since then, we have essentially been trading above there. We've dipped it below it a couple times, but nonetheless, us staying above it for as long as we have is pretty cool to see in terms of just market standing. So obviously with that in mind, I still see us doing pretty well. We could come down and tap this EMA, maybe fall a little bit below it before coming back up. But for any significant changes where, let's say this happens, where I'll use here, for example, we come down, we try to reclaim, we reject, we try to reclaim again, we reject, that could be bad, simply just off the EMA. Now, there's, again, a ton of different variables to look for, a ton of different confluences to look for, but just using basic terms, I do see us rejecting here as something to just kind of be expected, right? We just formulated a new all-time high. The market's been pretty good so far in terms of moving in a positive direction. So to simply sit here and say that we are just going to go up and up and up, that's simply a lie. We have to have, in terms of technical analysis, cooling off periods where we just get a little bit more selling pressure to justify these big price movements, to make it almost a healthy price movement. We need both sides to come in, and that's what we're experiencing right now. Then this would be more healthy to then push up to 125K instead of just bouncing all the way up there from the top of where we just were. So that's my thoughts on Bitcoin. Again, this is encompassing everything. As I get more knowledgeable in technical analysis, get more experience with it, I'll be able to explain things in better detail to you guys, but I just wanted to give my thoughts based off of what I know. We're now going to look at Ethereum. We talked about it as well. People are saying that this could be a double top. I do not think so. I think Ethereum has a lot more juice in it. Again, kind of what I was talking about with Bitcoin. I just don't expect us to continue on and on and on and up, right? I think like we could range like we were in May of 2025, simply just range around here before having a breakout where we could come up and see where we could go. I think 5K is definitely a place where we need to, like 5K is a very significant psychological number. That needs to be reclaimed. That needs to be claimed. We've never hit $5,000 per ETH yet. Once that number is hit and we're able to have a daily close above that, I think that's signifying very good strength within the markets, because you have to understand a lot of people who've bought ETH at $1,500 are going to be wanting to take profits at those round hole numbers, and 5K is a round hole number that we've never hit before. So if the expectation is that 5K per ETH is going to be an area of interest for a lot of sellers to go and sell their bags, then that could be an area where we see massive sell-offs or at least some sort of resistance, which we kind of did see. We got to around $4,968 per ETH before coming back down again. So I think as long as if we are able to reapproach that level again, if we're able to close above 5K, that signals that buyers are still there, outpacing those sellers who are expecting to sell at 5K, and we just continue forward up. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but overall, in terms of a technical analysis perspective, again, after just hitting an all-time high, this little bit of cooling off is something that just looks healthy. Again, people are saying that this is a double top. I've seen people say that what we're currently looking at here is the classic M formation, where we have a dip down, a failed reclaim, where in this case it's a higher or a lower high followed by movement down to potentially tap this identified demand zone that I have here, which would be around 3K. Honestly, we'll see. We'll see what is going to happen. That's just a quick thought on my part. But one thing I will say, I think if we do see a movement down, I think it will bring a lot of altcoins down with it. Again, ETH or altcoins have not been following ETH to as high of a standard as they were in December. However, when we've seen ETH respond negatively in terms of price action, we've seen altcoins react also pretty negatively as well. Inversely, when ETH's responding very well by creating new all-time highs, altcoins are not showing anywhere near or any strength as near as they were in December. So that is something to be concerned about. We talked about that a little bit, but anyways, let's move on to news. So the one piece of news we'll be looking at today is that the U.S. Commerce Department is putting GDP, so global domestic product reports, on the blockchain. Governments are finally taking blockchain seriously, and this is real crypto adoption. Next time someone says blockchain has no use case, send them this. So yes, this is pretty significant. The reason for that is because the U.S. Commerce Department, and just to simplify what this just said, is essentially using the blockchain for GDP reports, which is a very big term that is used a lot in macroeconomics. So this is pretty important in terms of global adoption because the US has been doing a okay job at implementing crypto. We've seen a lot of new things come out where the US, and specifically the government, of course, is adopting crypto in certain ways. This is just another one of those ways. But this is showing that the US Commerce Department in specific is actually using the blockchain and now reporting GDP, which could follow other countries to do the same. And in general, if we are to get all this data flowing into the blockchain from governments, that this could be pretty bullish to see. So the more adoption, like I said, no matter how small the adoption is by these big institutions, by government, it's very, very bullish on the long-term future of crypto. So I love to see this personally. I want to look more into this to further understand it more. But yeah, overall, this is one of the cooler things I've heard from today. There's really not much other news that I've seen. But yeah, just wanted to show you guys this. You guys can look into this as well. But now let's go on to Keeta. So again, I'm going to give a quick review on Keeta. I do have a little overview that I had ChatGPT put together just to have it laid out in front of us. But anyways, this coin came out, I believe, sometime in May, and we saw it go from around 40 cents to a peak of $1.60. So anyone who bought in at that time looked for around a 4x before it came down sometime in June, almost to around where it initially was concepted, but it hit a low of around 52 cents, came back up, and as you can see, we hit a high in August, not an all-time high, but we almost got there. We faced some resistance from that previous all-time high, so we failed to break it, but we, of course, hit that in, the 12th of August at $1.50 before coming back down. Now, again, this is a good example of market structure. So the current market structure I see is like here in July, we had clear bullish market structure, right? We had higher lows, higher highs. We had a lower high there, but it was almost something like this. All right, almost something like this. Not entirely lined up. But then what we had happen, as you guys can see here, is we came back down. The low was higher than the previous low, but this next high, that would be right here, is lower than that previous high. And that is why, and of course there's other reasons, but now we're going even further down. So we have switched from here, we switched from bullish structure to bearish structure. So what I'm seeing from a pure technical analysis perspective, just looking at simple market structure, we're now in bearish structure. So what would need to happen for us to be confident in us to continue up is we come back up and this high is higher than this previous one, indicating that we flipped from bearish structure to bullish. Now, if we look at simple support and resistance as well, where we are currently sitting in terms of price, if we draw out some levels here, we can see where we could potentially see price going next. Let's say there's a decent bit here and maybe here, I don't know. So as you can see, we are currently sitting around where this candle is. And the reason I drew out this is because of the this rejection here. We came up, rejected off of this. You realistically want to just look for the most touches. Again, I will have something out explaining support and resistance a lot better, but just from a simple look, if you guys see price wicked up into this resistance level, this previous resistance level, we had multiple wicks, even from back when in May when this was first launched. Wicks here in July, candle closes here. So that's kind of why I drew this level out. And you can see we rejected off of it here as well. But now we're somewhat rejecting off of it. So what I would look to see for us to stay in a bullish manner would be for us to close above this support and resistance level on the daily time frame. And then again, to continue upwards to potentially create a higher high than the previous one, or just flip the structure. Or we close, again, these support resistance lines are going to be perfect, but ideally what we'd want to see is we'd want to see rejections off of all these levels. I'd say like a box here potentially would be somewhere that I'd want us to reject off of if we were to come down and, touch this area again. It'd be very important to reject off of this area. So I'd say if I would not be buying now, I potentially would be DCAing into this project if I did see us still having an alt season. So this is not financial advice, by the way, but I would start DCAing now. This is what I would do if I was interested in this coin. I would start DCAing now based off of technical analysis. If we look at the EMA, we of course don't have a 200-day EMA. We do have barely a little bit of the 100-day EMA, so not really much data to even look at. But yeah, I would slowly start DCAing into this project now. I would set my buys to, again, these areas of support and resistance. So 73 cents, I'd look at 85 cents, and then my lowest bid would be around 55 cents, I'd say, is where I would kind of divvy things up. And then from there, I don't know if I would continue to load up from there. But overall, from a technical analysis perspective, we're short-term bearish. So again, I would load up here if you believed in this project. That's what I would personally do. But I would need to look at, of course, a lot of other factors also. So now let's actually get into what the project is about. And we should probably do this first and then get into the technical analysis view or point of view. And I'll also show you guys the token sniffer and explain what that is as well. So I just wanted a simple overview on what Keeta is. So it's both a blockchain and a token, of course. ETH is a blockchain and a token. So think of it like a super fast payment network, kind of like Visa, but on crypto rails. So I told them to simplify that, and that's what they explained. So KTA is a token, the ticker of what Keeta is. So why it stands out: speed. It can process tens of thousands of transactions per second, way faster than Bitcoin or Ethereum. Use case: built for real world assets, meaning things like stocks, real estate, or bonds. So it could be tokenized and traded on it. Real world assets is a term that's been around for a couple of years, or for a pretty long time in crypto, but of course we're seeing more projects come out trying to provide more of an emphasis on that. Compliance-wise is built-in ID, KYC, know your customer features, so it's more regulatory friendly than a lot of blockchains. That is something that a lot of people kind of get sticky about in terms of compliance because of how cryptocurrency is, supposed to be by nature, but nonetheless, big backing. It's raised over $20 million, and even Eric Schmidt, which is the ex-Google CEO, has invested into this token. And by the way, I have looked into this information, so we don't trust everything ChatGPT says. But yeah, that's true. Ex-Google CEO Eric Schmidt has invested into this token. And some token basics, this is essentially the tokenomics that, they're essentially saying. KTA is, of course, the ticker, 1 billion total tokens, but 600 million tokens are locked, so not all are circulating. So I'd want to hear why that is the case. Price around $1 right now, can change daily. Liquidity is pretty healthy, millions in daily trading volume, and there are over 100,000 wallets who are holding this token. So in short, Keeta is trying to be the blockchain where banks, investors, and normal people can all move money and assets instantly, securely, and in a way regulators won't hate. So that's pretty cool to hear. So it sounds like this is a pretty promising token. Like I said, I'm not going to give an in-depth analysis on this. We're not going to do too much of more of a deep dive, but we will go into looking at Dex Screener. Specifically, I would like to see the token sniffer. That's kind of the entire point why I brought it up. So this is a pretty good score on token sniffer. The only thing is you have a decent bit of the liquidity being locked, which again, that's not something I've done much research into. I'd have to do some more research into that. But overall, I'd say if this project is legit, from what I've seen, and I've not seen too much, it does look to be a pretty promising project. Then there's definitely potential for this from just what I'm seeing. And so I'd say from the very basics of what I've seen in terms of technical analysis, in terms of what I've just read, token sniffer, and I would not buy a project just off of this project based off of what I've looked at, by the way. But I give this a solid 7 out of 10 in terms of it does look like it has potential. It's a newer token, big backing. So with all that being said, yeah, it does look like a solid project in my opinion. And when I said that I wouldn't invest in this token based off of what I've looked at, that just means that I need to look into this a lot more than I currently have to make a 100% decision. So I just want everyone to know that if you're ever going to invest into something like this, you need to do your own research and make the decision on your own and not just count on someone else. But yeah, this does look like a solid project. But yeah, so that's going to wrap up today's video. We went over Keeta. Comment down below on this video. If no one does comment, then I'll simply just go and look at someone else's comment that they left on the previous one. If you're interested in me taking a look at a coin, I saw Arrowbud. We can check that one out again tomorrow if no one says anything. But without further ado, guys, that's going to be it for me today. We should have an interesting video for you guys out tomorrow. We'll do kind of same old. And with all that being said, I'll see you guys later.